A very beautiful morning to you. It's exactly 33 minutes Compardio 89.3 FM, your preferred wholesome radio. We're reaching you live from Wells Broadcasting House along Alaafin Avenue, Oluyole Estate, Ibadan. Welcome this morning to Perspectives Unlimited. Perspectives Unlimited is that platform where we go beyond the news to help you make sense of some of the stories across our various national dailies. It's a daily dose of newspaper reviews right here on Wells Radio 89.3 FM. My name is Toluwaleke Alli. This morning we're live on Facebook, so you can join us live on Facebook as we go on the show, which is live at Wells Radio 893 FM fan page, at Wells Radio 893 FM fan page. But we are also live on YouTube. So YouTube is Wells Radio 89.3 FM. YouTube is live at Wells Radio 89.3 FM. On Facebook, it's Wells Radio 893 FM fan page. Wells Radio 893 FM fan page. As we go on the show, you can drop your comments. Let us know what you think about whatever story that we are analyzing this morning. Once again, welcome. Let's check out the front pages across some of our national dailies this morning. Let's begin this morning with the front page of the Punch newspaper for today. And the lead story reads, Hurricane Tinubu, PDP, NWC, governors meet next week to avert defections. And it has a rider, party to sue Delta governor, 547 local government chairmen, assemblymen, councillors as Atiku Okowa clash. And that story can be found on page 2 of the Punch newspaper this morning. Above the masthead, NNPCL shake-up, MDs of Port Harcourt worry Kaduna refineries sacked. Executives axed in major overhaul. And that story can be found on page 19. Obi doesn't need PDP, Atiku coalition to defeat Tinubu. That's coming from NLC, and that can be found on page 30 of the Punch newspaper this morning. Nigeria risks breakup without federal reform, and Yauku warns. That's on page 7. NSA plans joint security screening at airports. To check more on that story, check out page 26 of the Punch newspaper for this morning. Kanu's trial, DSS submits Radio Biafra devices in court. And that's on page 7. US jails Nigerian over defrauded 400 elderly people of inheritance. US jails Nigerian who defrauded 400 elderly people of inheritance. That's on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. Zenith Bank shareholders approve 195 billion naira dividend. That's on page 26. And those are the stories on the front page, as well as one more story. That's COAS vows tough offensive as Boko Haram kills 40 in Borno. And that's on page 2. All of these stories you can find on the front page of the Punch newspaper for this morning. On the front page of the Guardian newspaper for this morning, the lead story reads 9 mobile at crossroads, $3 billion lifeline, as 10.3 million subscribers port. That's on page 6. NFIU identifies betting, fintechs, others as enablers of kidnapping. To check more on that story, check out page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Despite 40 trillion naira investment in 11 years, insecurity in Nigeria unacceptable. And that's on page 7. Also on page 7, federal government's witnesses testifies behind closed doors as Kanu's terrorism trial begins. Akpabio Agbakoba demands Natasha's retraction of sexual harassment claims. That can be found on page 14 of the Guardian newspaper. PDP to sue Oborevwori, others as Okowa assures of Atiku's imminent decamp. That's on page 6. Lagos empowers 1,700 entrepreneurs through micro support initiative. That story can be found on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. NBS expands CPI, unveils daily price movement data, and that's on page 16. CACO, presidential aid, seek probe of illegal student loan deductions. That can be found on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Moving on to the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, above the masthead, minimum wage, NLC kicks, says some states merely added 5,000 naira to workers' salaries. And that's on page 10. Achimogu declares hunger strike as the FCC confirms arrest. Story can be found on page 26 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. No attempted Boko Haram invasion in Oyo, trending video outdated. That's coming from the Oyo Police Command. That story is on page 15. I told Atiku about my exit from PDP. Is leaving too. That's coming from Okowa, and it has a couple of riders. PDP vows legal battle to reclaim mandate. Nobody can kill PDP. That's coming from Damagam. NWC appoints South caretaker to oversee state chapter. Story can be found on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Nigeria in deficit of 300,000 doctors. That's coming from the quarters of the federal government, and it has two riders. Earmarks over 110 billion naira to revamp 18 varsities medical schools. Kwara needs 100 doctors. That's coming from the Hospital Management Board. And the story can be found on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. How Nigeria can create prosperity that will last. That's coming from Makinde, and it has a rider appreciates Tinubu's wife for ICT Center in Ibadan. And that's on page 29. And also on page 29, which is the final story on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning, Ekiti North leaders, stakeholders endorse Oyebanji deputy for second term. And those are the stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. Finally, to the Daily Trust newspaper, FBI others to release Tinubu probe reports Friday. And that's on page 10. Alleged money laundering at Shimogun to appear in court today. The story can be found on page 44 of the Daily Trust newspaper. ISWAP claims responsibility for Borno attack as death toll hits 26. The story can be found on page 8 of the Daily Trust newspaper for this morning. And the lead story reads Okowa's choice as running mate 23 presidency. And that's coming from Moro. It starts from the front page and continues on pages 3, 4, and 5 of the Daily Trust newspaper. We trek for miles, Mina residents say as curfew bites. And that's on page 15. Soldier to die by hanging for killing girlfriend. And that's on page 29. How dozens of civilian JTF died defending communities in Borno, Yobe, Adamawa. The story can be found on page 14 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. NNPCL appoints Idrisu Obioma, sacks Port Harcourt Refinery's MD, 200 others. The story can be found on page 6 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And those are the stories across some of our national dailies this morning. All right, joining me on the conversation this morning is our in-house analyst, Chukwuemeka Munachi. So good morning, Chukwuemeka.
Good morning, Tolu.
All right, let us begin with the story that cuts across majority of the newspaper platforms this morning and, of course, takes up the lead story. APP says Hurricane Tinubu, PDP, NWC, governors meet next week. Barring any last-minute changes, the People's Democratic Party's National Working Committee and the Governors Forum are scheduled to hold a strategic meeting to address the wave of defections and other challenges facing the party. A trusted senior member of the NWC who requested to be anonymous due to lack of authorization to speak on the matter exclusively told the Punch that the governors are scheduled to meet with the party leadership on May 11. The source stated that the meeting will focus on strategies to prevent certain members from leaving the party, the issue of the national secretary, and other matters impacting the party. This is as the PDP NWC instructed its legal advisor Kamaldeen Ajibade SAN to take legal action regarding the defection of Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevori and other elected members. Recall that on April 23rd, Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevori, along with his predecessor and PDP's 2023 vice presidential candidate Ifeanyi Okowa, as well as other elected party members from the state, officially defected to the All Progressives Congress. The source stated that the outcome of the meeting between the Governors Forum and NWC members will play a crucial role in determining the party's future direction. Now let's start with the lawsuit that PDP intends to slam against the Delta State governor. Do you think it is something, it's a case that can...
What I want to say here is that, you mentioned something, you said Hurricane Tinubu. Yeah, they may be gloating over the use of that adjective, hurricane. But what is hurricane and what does hurricane do? Hurricane is destructive. Hurricane destroys everything good on its path. It levels the lives of people. It makes people homeless. It causes massive loss of lives. That is what hurricane does. So those who may be gloating over that appellation, Hurricane Tinubu, to show their sagacity, I'm sorry that it does not portend anything good for Nigeria. And you see, when you talk of defections, emphasis should be on midterm metrics of this administration, not on the euphoria of defections and propaganda. If PDP is going to sue I wonder which court they will take the matter to. That's the thing. I wonder which court and what knowing full well court pronouncements we have had recently in our country. Kano State is here having 2 emirs. So I don't know the court they will take it to. Because people don't seem to realize the danger we are in right now in Nigeria, where everything has been eroded. If they take the governor of Delta State to court, I'm still yet to know. Then, you see, when we talk of second terms, all about second term, you must have second term. The worth of a state in the long run is in the worth of individuals composing it. That is why, because there's what they call scorecard. Bring your scorecard. At the end of it all, is all about the people. And all the claims of having done this, are going beyond what evidence warrants. So, what are the scorecard of this administration? What are they bringing to the table that this is what I've done? So, people should not box into euphoria. Oh, this is what are they? Is defection the metrics you want second term? Because second term is not, you don't even need to ask for second term. People will ask you to go for second term if you do the needful. I remember when this former Minister of Works, this man from Lagos State, Babatunde Fashola, was saying something about second term. Fashola said it's only people who have failed are going for second term. He said, why should you go for second term when you know that you have done well? If you have done well, my people have a proverb that, look, Tolu, I believe in continuity. But continuity is good if what we are continuing is helpful and rewarding. After all, we have a proverb in my place that if you are cooking yam porridge and it becomes sweet, people will ask you to add more yams. What you have cooked for us, is this sweet? Must you impose yourself on people? Must you go for second term when you? What are the metrics? What are you bringing to the table? What